So I have a bunch of different types and sizes of raised beds, so I'm going to talk about those a little bit. And I also want to go over what I did here in this whole garden area to get rid of the grass and prevent weeds. So the first raised beds we put in this garden were these four here. They are 3 foot by 6 foot, and these are about 12 inches tall, and they're just made out of fence planks. You could just get individual cedar dog ear fence planks from Lowe's or whatever, cut the dog ear off of them, and I just made the beds out of these. 3 years on these beds, they're still going strong. And here we have two 3 foot by 3 foot raised beds built the same way, and these were our first 6 garden beds out here in this garden. Here in Ohio, we got decent soil, so a short 12-inch raised bed is going to be sufficient for most things. But if you're somewhere where you have like hard clay or something, it may not work for you. If you're growing stuff like lettuce, herbs, radishes, stuff that doesn't root very deep, you'll be fine with these shorter beds. But if you're doing something like tomatoes, for example, where you're planting them deep and you want them to be able to root deep, you're probably going to want to get a much deeper bed. So pretty much all my beds in this garden are about 12 inches deep. But you got to keep in mind that even when you fill them beds to the top, that soil is going to settle. You're going to end up with about 8 inches of soil. So I have this one here that's about 18 inches deep, and this is where I plant my carrots, because I like for them to have deep, loose soil, so there's nothing going to be getting in their way, no rocks or anything. If they're growing down below that garden bed, I don't have to worry about that in this one, so I can make sure I got the big straight carrots. So even if your soil is trash, something like this is probably going to be sufficient for you. So I have a bunch of different types of raised beds here, mostly because people send them to me. I just throw them in the garden. I actually built this one here out of some metal roofing. But honestly, I don't see any benefit to having these metal beds other than they look nice and they're easy. You just put them together and stick them where you want them. So you could build 3 6 foot by 3 foot raised beds from cedar fence planks for probably just a little more money than you would pay for one of these. I'm also growing in these burlap coffee bags. This is the first year I've done this. And I just filled these with the same mixture that I use in my raised beds. Just tried to do like 50-50 topsoil and leaf compost or mushroom compost. So I figured, these are big enough that they're almost just like little raised beds, and they're doing great. I got these squash peppers and I got some habaneros. It's just huge over there. So I filled my raised beds, like I said, with a mix of 50-50 topsoil and leaf compost or mushroom compost. And when I fill them, I have that delivered mixed. I topped off 7 beds this year, and I filled 5 beds, I think. And delivery charge and everything, I only paid $180 for it. So when I fill my beds, I amend that with some of my homemade compost, and I'll continue to add my homemade compost to the beds throughout the season. And what I use on the ground here to get rid of the grass and control the weeds is mulch. And it was the best decision ever. I can't recommend it enough. So when we first started this, we only had mulch around this little pollinator seating area, just in a big square. And last year, we extended that out here to between all the beds and then these little pathways here, which really saves us a ton of time maintaining the lawn and doing the weed eating and everything. So the way we did this mulch is, first you're going to get your weed eater and you're going to cut that grass down as low as you possibly can. Then you want to cover everything with cardboard, and it can be difficult to locate that much cardboard because you're definitely going to need more than you think. So if you plan on doing this next year, start saving your cardboard now. But once you get that down, you're just going to soak the cardboard down, and then I put about 3 inches of mulch on top of that. You can see I have this border here. This is just kind of temporary. This will be coming out next year. Once I get another layer of mulch on top of here, I'll have a nice edge established. This basically just holds the edge of the cardboard down, gets me a good edge. When I take this out, I'll just be able to maintain that edge with my weed eater from here on out. Doing the mulch is a lot of work. I wouldn't recommend trying to do an area like this all at once. You can just do sections at a time. Like I said, we started with this middle flower garden area first. Then the next year we went and did between all the existing raised beds. This year we did back at the point beyond the greenhouse and down through here. We get very few weeds through here. Maybe once a week we'll go through and pull a couple, and that's about it. So it's super easy to maintain. And once you have everything down, just every year in the spring, get a thin layer of mulch on top to freshen it up. That's all you need to do.